G'day everyone, it's me, the Anti-Theocrat, back with another one. Now, I've already recorded this one, but I was really annoyed with the way it came up. So I'm going to do it again, mainly because I don't think I put my perspective forward. I'm covering this because I read it, and all I felt about it was that someone was trying to emotionally blackmail me to be angry for very vague and unspecified reasons, yet there are definite red flags through the article that point in a certain direction. Now, there are things that I agree with in this, but I do not think this article, if it was meant to make me feel for nursing staff, did that. My history, my father was disabled when I was 15 years old because of a motorcycle accident. Someone ran over him on his way home from work, and so I spent about 6 months in a hospital every afternoon after school and on weekends. The nursing staff fed us Vegemite sandwiches out of the nurse's canteen because we weren't eating overly well at home. Our family income had dropped dramatically. My father was a shift worker, and when he wasn't working, there was also no shift incomes, and we dropped to to say abject poverty is probably not wrong. We had people delivering meals to us 2 to 3 times a week. The nurses at the hospital, as I said, were feeding us in the nurses' canteen. My mum was eating my father's dinners because he wasn't eating, he was on a drip. So that was where she was getting her meals. So yeah, we were extremely hard done by. We had a fairly hard time of it. And I saw the compassion of nurses and how hard these people work and the conditions that they have to work in. I also saw how they can make mistakes and a whole lot of other things, but I don't ever believe, I have never in my life that I can think of understood this to be an easy job. I have a cousin who worked her way through to surgical nursing, and she's no longer a nurse, and I'm led to believe that the stresses of nursing are part of why she's not. My drinking partners when I was in my early working years were nurses and sex workers. They just happened to be who we hung out with at the pub. And those people can drink. Difficult professions. People under a lot of stress. And yes, they knew how to party. So I've known nurses. I've been around nurses. I know something of what it is to do nursing. I have nurses around me now, ex-nurses around me now, who did aged care. I've heard the horror stories. I understand that because I would never wish to be in one of those positions looking after people like that. I'm sorry, but when you're shitting yourself, you know, I was a first aid cadet and things, and I'm not squeamish, but I don't want to be wiping people's asses. It's just that simple. And that's probably the least of what you have to go through. I'm going to keep talking for a minute because I'm going to lead us through this. I'll open the article. I just want to set my position on this out before I move on, because I don't want to be that person who's just bitching and moaning about this woman's article because whatever. I don't know. I'm not even sure what she's trying to get me to do. It feels like she's trying to martyr herself actually being a martyr. She's setting out the terms for her martyrdom without actually giving us what she wants from her. Now, look, I don't know where I was going with the nurses thing. If I think of it, I'll let you know, but I have a lot of compassion for people who undertake nursing as a career. I do not believe it's an easy job. Doctors and surgeons, they get to walk in and they get to walk away. And if someone dies on the table, then maybe they're affected by that. Maybe it's just another set of organs under the knife. But the nurses, they're there not just for you, wiping your ass, carrying you to the toilet, making sure you're plugged into everything you need to be plugged into. They're there when you walk in. They're there when you walk out or are carried out. And they're there when they see people go in and out on a regular basis, knowing they will never not leave this institution. They will be home for short periods. They are there when families break down and cry. They're there through all the emotion of other people. This is not a job I envy. I wish I had the strength to do this. I think maybe I do. I'm very calculating when people get hurt. I turn off emotionally. I was an ambulance cadet, and I had no problem turning off. My wife was thrown from horse, was unconscious for 6 hours. I turn into an emotional robot. I just get on and do the business that needs to be done to get us through whatever it is that's going on. Maybe I am the sort of person who could do this. But I don't want to find myself having to do it. And the people who choose to do it, good luck to you. Really, all the best. So I'm going to read the article now. Let's see where this goes, shall we? I want my death to make you angry. For the record, I don't want you dead, and I don't particularly need to be angry. There's plenty of things to be angry about. I try not to have my life tied to anger all the time. I can turn it on for when I'm reading articles to a microphone, but I do not wish to be angry through my life. It's no way to live. Okay, so Emily, I'm not going to even bother, is a registered nurse and a member of, well, this is the Minnesota Nurses Association, is where this comes from. What is it like being a nurse in a pandemic? Every day you bounce through the stages of grief like a pinball. The ricochet and whiplash leaves my soul tired and bruised. Okay, so I don't know how this is different from every other day for a nurse. As I have said, nurses go through an awful lot. I know this. I respect this. This just sounds like every day. The difference is that we are in a pandemic. And given the death rate of this pandemic, it's probably not overly unlike any other day in a hospital, because people are dying around you all the time. Some people are dying because they've chosen to go into hospital for a procedure they did not medically need. And nurses are there through all of that. It's normal. It's normal procedure for a nurse. So let's listen to this emotional blackmail, shall we? Sorry, I'm throwing that in right now because that's all this is. She's not even going to give us enough information about her emotional state, I must add, for us to build any true connection to her. And that's why I thought I would address this video early on with how I perceive nurses, and I think we should all perceive nurses. Some nurses undertake nursing because they see it as a profession, but a lot of nurses undertake nursing as police officers often do, because they want to do the best for people. And I do not get that connection through this article. Denial. I've spent less and less time in the denial stage. Still, I see many of my loved ones, politicians and laypersons still stuck in that phase. Now, where am I supposed to get my emotional connection to your denial if you're getting over it? I don't know loved ones, politicians and laypersons. We're not the ones working in the hospitals, are we? So this is not connecting us to nurses at all. This is not connecting us to the doctors or the surgeons or the other people who are in the hospitals trying to deal with this pandemic. This is not connecting you to this is not connecting those people to us at all. Anger. When our elders and immunosuppressed folk are referred to as disposable members of society. Look, I understand that this is not what we want to hear, okay? I understand this is what nobody wants to hear. I would like to know where exactly you're hearing it, but I suspect again that you are going to hear this more than once in your career. It is not going to be just now. Let's say a bus has a crash, right? And people are left in various states. You are going to be looking to save the young and virile over the old, elderly and more likely to die, just because they have less chance of surviving. They're already in that situation. You try to save the people you can save. I know none of us wants to hear it, but this is a reality. And I don't imagine this is just in Minnesota or in the USA, or that it is just now during this, as I've said, it could have been an accident, say a train accident, because you've got more people to deal with, right? In general. So, it could be anything where you find yourself in this position. I'm pretty sure there are probably rules around which people you are to choose, because sometimes leaving this in the hands of, nurses can put them through greater emotional turmoil. If the decision making is taken out of their hands, if they are told this person has to wait for this person to be dealt with first. All right. I'm going to bring up MASH, the TV series, the old TV series, MASH. When they brought in the soldiers from the field, what was the first thing they did? They chose which ones were going to survive, and they dealt with them first. If there were critical people who were thought to be able to survive, they would go in first. But if they were critical and didn't look like they had any chance to survive, they would be left out to die. It's just the way it is. I have to say, the first time I read this, I thought this woman didn't sound well suited to nursing. And reading it through again, I'm beginning to think less and less of her ability to be in nursing. Because the more I read this, the more I see her complaining about things which I'm pretty sure that to be a very stable and capable nurse, you just have to know and understand are going to be the way of the job. Okay, moving on. When the pocketbooks of stockholders are considered more important than human lives, this would largely be a US problem. And I don't think at this time that the US or anywhere else in the world is particularly giving a shit about the stockholders to get this pandemic under control. But yes, I understand that in regular conditions, in the American system, which is a for-profit system, then maybe this is a problem that needs more consideration. I have public health care at my disposal. This is not an issue I have to deal with. On the other hand, to say that this is just a problem of pocketbooks and stockholders is wrong. Every country with public health service has limitations on its budgets as well. Money just doesn't come out of nowhere. The UK's public health system is said to be in a terrible state, underfunded and overworked. The Australian system, while better funded, has its own problems. I don't think there is any health system that is perfect. The one thing I can say about stockholders and pocketbooks is that it raises a lot of money, which means you can have the best of everything. You're not limited to what the government is willing to give you. You can raise money through the roof. It's much harder to do that when you're not focused on, when you don't have people focused on doing that, because your money is being given to you. So I think there's ins and outs with all systems. But again, where am I getting my compassion for you as a nurse? All right, this is where you started. You wanted me to consider your emotional state. You are leading me through your emotional state, and I'm not feeling it. Now, moving on, she says, when for decades we've known this pandemic was coming. Did we? Moving on. I burn with anger at the system that prioritises profits over health. It's the system that regularly runs out of essential and critical supplies seasonally. I have anger knowing the fragility of our supply chain has been exposed time and time again, especially after the earthquake in Puerto Rico. I don't know why she went to Puerto Rico. Aren't we in the middle of a pandemic? Can you not provide me something about the pandemic? Have supplies actually been very quick in getting to you after they realised that there was a problem? And that's why you've had to go to Puerto Rico. And yet nothing was done to reinforce them. I don't know what you do. I don't know that any system is built around an ideal where you have warehouses of materials that are going out of date, just sitting there waiting for something to happen. I don't know if you can predict when we're going to have earthquakes like in Puerto Rico, or when we're going to have a pandemic like this one, and we're going to need supplies the way you say we need supplies right now. I don't know that there's a solution for that. You're not offering one. But again, and this time you went right to Puerto Rico to take away my concern for the damn pandemic that you're supposed to be dealing with. This is meant to be your emotional roller coaster, remember? And it's related to a pandemic. Yet you went to earthquakes in Puerto Rico for your example of a problem. Maybe stick with the nursing. I don't know. You don't seem well suited to nursing. Maybe that's why you're writing. But I have to ask, can you be good at one of them? Can you just put your efforts into being good at one of them? Bargaining. The government bodies I think you wrote this. I think you wrote this with the intention of making this emotional roller coaster, not because you had an emotional roller coaster to actually write about, because you haven't given us your emotional roller coaster. I think this was just to give you headings, little headlines that you could write things behind. That's how I'm starting to feel, because I'm not feeling your emotional connection to this story. All I'm feeling is this is a heading, a topic starter, a kickoff point. This is not you bargaining emotionally. This is you going into some propaganda around the concept of bargaining. The governing bodies bargaining with the supply chain availability over scientific evidence. A paper bag is given the magic powers to somehow preserve masks that are already expired and soiled. Droplet precautions are now satisfactory for airborne illness, but don't you dare leave scotch tape on the walls. See, were you working somewhere and someone said, get that tape off the walls, that's creating a non-sanitary environment here? Is that what's going on? Did you post a union notice on the wall or a NMA notice on the wall? Or it's probably a union, but are you posting this on the wall using tape and someone said that's not good enough? Is that your problem here? So you've decided that there's problems and I want to stick my poster on the wall? Because that one comment at the end just undermined the whole bargaining thing, right? This supply chain availability over scientific evidence. there's probably good cause for that. I'm not in hospital supply. I'm not in the medical professions. I'm not a scientist doing research in these fields. But I'm guessing that if something does not have scientific basis for being used, then you don't want it bogging up the supply chain you've already told us isn't strong enough. But again, I'm not getting the emotional connection. I'm just getting dot points with names. Depression. Heaviness in my heart knowing my co-workers and friends will become unwilling sacrifices so the system can continue its self-destructive path. And there's grief for the many people I will not have the resources to care for and save. I would say this is pretty much everyone on the planet who has any concern over this. Yes, you're on the front line and that makes it more personal for you, and I do understand that. I've tried to express. This is why I talked about nursing up front before I got into the article, because I understand that you are emotionally connected, you are closer connected to this than most other people, and not just to that one relative like my father that I was in there for. You have more emotional connection to absolutely every person on the ward. It's not easy, I know, but I don't know that the system is on a self-destructive path. I'm not seeing evidence of that. I don't know that you've got evidence of that. You certainly supplied nothing. You've just implied it. Your co-workers and friends may become unwilling recipients of this virus, but I doubt anyone's planning for them to be sacrificed. So that's not quite true, is it? Look, I understand the depression probably better than I understand everything else you've written so far. Because I think if I was walking in wards of people who were extremely ill, knowing that a certain percentage of them were very likely to die, it's got to be depressing. But you haven't really done a good job of expressing this, because I don't think anyone's trying to make people unwilling sacrifices deliberately. I do not think the system is naturally self-destructive. I think, in fact, the system will do things to increase its ability to survive. And yes, the only part of this that meant anything is that you might have some problems with caring for people you can't help. Something you would probably have in your normal day-to-day nursing career. Acceptance. I have acceptance that I will be infected with COVID-19 at some point. The great martyrdom starts. I'm not scared of getting sick. I'm scared of infecting those who will not survive. I get that. So keep your mask on, wash your hands. It's all you or any of us can do. Shit, I'm in a town that doesn't even have infection. One on a short list of places in Australia that does not have the infection. And we're still locked in and we're still doing our part. So all I can ask is that in your high-risk area of work, you are doing more than I am to stay safe. I check every day that our state's available hospital beds and ventilators. I wonder if my illness becomes severe, will there be resources left for me? Why didn't you give us any hint of how the state of hospital beds and ventilators was? Because one of the things about the lock-in is we're trying to keep from needing an excess of hospital beds and ventilators. So you didn't give us any idea here or whether there is an abundance of them or not. And because you didn't, I'm left to thinking that there probably is. Stay safe, stay well, don't get the infection, don't give it to other people as best you possibly can. Then we'll have no trouble with beds and ventilators. Okay? It's just a suggestion. Okay. And then I'm tagged in another social media post praising me for being a hero. And I'm instantly flung back into the pinball machine as my emotions ricochet through the stages. If it helps any, I don't think you're a hero. I think you're someone doing a job, a difficult job. I think that at this time we need that job done. I've been in a job where, at times my services were very needed. Maybe not by somebody who was going to die, but there's a potential that people could have died had I not done those services anyway. Nobody was laying in a bed. It's just they could have been if I hadn't got it right. So, no, I don't think you're a hero. I think you're someone doing a very difficult job. If that helps you to not go through this emotional roller coaster, which I'm having having a real problem believing you do because of the way you've written this, none of this comes off as your emotional roller coaster. All of this comes off as you point scoring. If I die, I don't want to be remembered as a hero. Done. But I'm telling you now, more than done. Do you know how many doctors in China, doctors, really important, big name medical professionals died because of this? Do you know their names? Nobody will remember you. Do not martyr yourself at this time. You will just be a number. You will be a statistic. This would be a stupid time to die because nobody outside your circle of friends is going to think of you as any kind of hero. To the rest of us, you are a number. People more important than you in the system of things have died. I want my death to make you angry too. I'm sorry? Did I say number? That you're not going to mean a whole lot to the rest of us? To the world? To nothing? I mean, you're on some site called MNA from somewhere in America that I happened to bump into on a pro-Labor Party Facebook page here in Australia, but otherwise, I doubt many people have seen this. I doubt this is making big waves, this article. I may be spreading it further than it would spread naturally on its own. And I am not the sort of person who has a big audience as yet. So, yeah, no, I'm not going to get angry, and I don't think there's any purpose in getting angry. I don't think you've given us any particular reason to get angry. See, you tried to emotionally blackmail us, but you didn't actually have any emotion to express of your own, any genuine emotion to express. You don't actually give us any objectives that you would like to see come out of these points that you've made. You rally against stockholders and pocketbooks. You rally against privatisation and profits, as if they are naturally just bad things for existing. Is that what you want us to get angry about? Do you want us to get angry about COVID-19? You haven't said anything about the spread of the disease, where it came from, how it's managed to become so virulent in the US. You've said none of that. So could I be getting angry about that? That we should know these things, that these things should be being followed up, researched and studied at this time, that we should be pointing fingers at people and saying, you got it wrong. Whether or not they got it wrong deliberately or not, it would be nice to know where it went wrong so that we know not to get it wrong next time. I want to politicise my death. I got that already. I really did. I want you to use it as fuel to demand change in this industry, to demand protection, living wages, and safe working conditions for nurses. And here's the bit that I really, really find annoying. And all workers. See, I had a feeling that this was going to be some sort of cry for a communist utopia. And she doesn't actually go there and say that to us. But if anything at all spells out my feelings about this, it is the words all workers. I'm going to leave all workers alone. I really don't want to follow that path on this. What I want to know is you want us to politicise your death. So you've already decided you are going to be a martyr. Hooray, you the hero. Did I say I wasn't going to call you a hero? Go on, martyr yourself and see if I just see if I don't. But it won't be because I think you're a hero. We just pure taken the piss. I want you to use it as fuel to demand change in this industry. Now, the things you've rallied against are profits and supply lines and so forth. Do you have any solutions? Do you actually have any ideas? Because you haven't given us any. You just want us to all rally for something. Do nurses in the US not make a living wage? I ask because over here they most certainly do. I couldn't imagine them not making a living wage over here. But as I have family in nursing and other such things, I know nursing can pay quite well. So who's not getting the living wage amongst you nurses? And shouldn't this be something you're rallying against? You considered unionising? Okay, use my death to mobilise others. No. Against what? To do what? Again, you've really given us nothing. If this is what you want, it doesn't tell us much. You want to demand change. Well, hurrah. The only things you've particularly demanded are protection, living wage, and safe working conditions. And surely that's what unions are for. That's what most of us are looking for in life. I'm not going to mobilise other people for this. I'm pretty sure other people understand that this should be a condition of employment, that especially for nurses, right? If you're working the front counter of McDonald's for 3 hours a day, then you're not working the sorts of job that you're meant to live on. You're working the sort of job a 15-year-old's meant to do. So yes, I just don't know. You're not giving me anything to mobilise others around. Certainly not your emotional stance, which I do not believe in. Use my name at the bargaining table. Yes, number, 26,932. Did I say you'll only be a number? Don't become a martyr. You would be wasting your time. You would be wasting everyone's time. Nobody needs to be nursing you to death. It's a waste of time. Stay alive. Be well. Do your best. Use my name to shame those who have profited to fail to act, leaving us to clean up the mess. Look, all of this is just a fucking call to martyrdom. That's all it is. I'm going to martyr myself, and I want you to all rally behind Allah. That's what this is. And I don't give a flying fuck. Don't say heaven has gained an angel. Well, I'm not going to do that, am I? I'm a fucking atheist. That would just be stupid. I'm not going to say that sort of stupid shit. Where'd you get that idea? Tell them negligence and greed has murdered a person for choosing a career dedicated to compassion and service. No, I will tell them that you probably didn't wash your hands properly. You're taught how to wash your hands. You are given masks. If you do not have the appropriate equipment, do not walk onto the ward. Okay? It's not that hard. I know I was only a first aider. I worked ambulances and shit, but even there I was teaching kids first aid. And I know you do things to protect yourself. Alright, I'm done with this. As I said, there's a kid going to wash his hands apparently. As I said, I really didn't know what to do with this. I just thought I could feed more compassion in for nurses than this woman had fed in, because I did not feel at all emotionally connected to any of this. It was just a call for some sort of vague political position that she's got, that she barely committed to through the whole article. I hope you're enjoying these videos during the lock-in. I hope they're providing you some sort of entertainment or boring you to tears. It doesn't really matter, does it? While you're locked in, bored to tears is better than fuck all. That's it. It's all I've got. It's all I'm giving you. I've been the anti-theocrat. May your gods remain fictional, and I will see you in the next one.